know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Hello, my name is Pastor Derek Lane, and I live and pastor here in the Othello community. I'm vaccinated because I know how illness can hurt a community. As a grandfather, I am boosted to help protect my 3.5-year-old granddaughter who can't be. I don't want to see members of my community die needlessly. And as a pastor, I've had funerals for those who caught COVID, but none from taking the vaccine. If you have questions, need resources, or want to make an appointment, visit kingcounty.gov/vaccine.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the Cabinets from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Lines.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince and Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Night Beat with Nasty Ness Rodriguez.
It's the beat of the Fox. K-Fox Night Beat, Nasty Ness.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba. The Underground Surround Sound Start Time with Paul Pearson.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to midnight. Sunday evening, your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is your Rainier Avenue Radio .world community update on free online exercise classes. The YMCA of Pierce and Kitsap counties has launched more than 60 free online exercise classes and youth programs to support the health and well-being of the community. Classes include boot camp, yoga, weightlifting, boxing, tai chi, and more. Find classes at ymca360.org. No membership is needed to access these classes at ymca360.org.
This message is brought to you by Public Health, Seattle and King County, the Washington Department of Health, Washington Chapter AAP, and Within Reach. No matter where your classroom is, whether in person or online, routine vaccinations protect your child from serious diseases like measles, mumps, and they keep your child safe, healthy, and thriving. Need help finding a provider? Visit parenthelp123.org or call the Help Me Grow Washington hotline at 1-800-322-2588.
Rainier Avenue Radio .world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio .world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
Street Beat. Street Beat is hosted by me, Tony B, and we keep you in touch with the beat of the city. I got to tell you, last night I was at Jazz Alley. Kirk Whalum, his band, really beat the city. And we're excited to have Mr. Whalum here joining us very shortly. Again, welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio .world, your community radio station. We just finished an incredible Black History Month, all month long. Go back and check it out. There were a number of events. We had Blacks in Trades. We had a discussion about being an African immigrant in Black America, just a ton of different things. We wanted to give you a holistic experience because you can't you can't do it in a month, but you definitely can't do it in one day, in 2 hours. So go check out our Black History Month archives. This month is Women's History Month, and we're happy to be celebrating with a number of different guests. In particular, check out John Yasutaki's show every Thursday at 6 o'clock. We'll have a different guest on celebrating Women's History Month. As a matter of fact, on Monday, Street Beat will be celebrating Women's History Month with Judith Hill. So make sure and join us for that as well. Again, excited to be here. At 2:30, we'll have Michael and Seti Passion joining us for Community Spotlight. Bree Scott from Clean Greens Living will be hosting that and doing that particular interview. They're going to tell you all about Walkaway City, which is an amazing program. They partner with 28 different organizations. Long story short, doing positive things for kids. And right here in the Columbia City Theater on Saturday will be the grand finale of all this work that's been going on for 4 years. There'll be performances, there'll be videos, there'll be food right here in the Columbia City Theater. So, you know what? Without further ado, I'm going to bring him up right now. So we're live, but we don't have any guests in the studio. But you know what? For those of you who are at home watching, Mr. Kirk Whalum.
Hey, good to see you, Tony. What an honor, man.
Oh, good to have you back again.
Yes, indeed. And this historic, beautiful venue. This is really nice, man.
Oh, thank you, bro. Thank you. Well, man, I guess I want to start from the very beginning. For anyone who was living on Mars, you know, and isn't aware of your legendary career, some of the things, man. Nominated for 12 Grammys, just incredible. Winner of 2 Grammy Awards.
One.
Okay, winner of 1.
I would like to have a second, but maybe, are you a prophet?
I hope I am.
Clairvoyant.
And just, man, such an impact. You're like the soundtrack. Of our lives for what you've done. So welcome, man. Great to have you.
It's so nice to be here, man. Thank you. And I gotta tell you, man, I loved Seattle. The audience last night at Jazz Alley was just wonderful, man. You know, people don't know the secret, but the show that you get is 50%, you know, stimulated and brought to you by the audience. You know, the audience feeds a certain aspect of what we do, and it's always different. It's always something greater than what we could have done. Just enjoying the music, loving playing with each other is awesome, and playing with an audience that's kind of not engaged, or they're sort of posing, or they're, you know, sort of, you know, jazz intelligentsia, you know, that's always less rewarding. So we had a fun audience.
The last time I saw you in Seattle, you were on a big stage, and the show was great. I really enjoyed seeing you in the intimacy of Jazz Alley. Now, I know about your background in playing in club, but you seem to, I mean, watching you interact with the crowd in a small environment, I think that's the best way to see Kirk Whalum. Now, I know you have to play those big stadiums and everything, but I just think that's a great way to see you, man. You seem really comfortable in that environment.
I am, man. You're right. I cut my teeth at a little club in Houston, man. I'm from Memphis, but went to college there at Texas Southern, HBCU. And that little place is called Cody's, man. It's gone now, but it's a club where, you know, all the sort of forces, you know, the constellations aligned during the mid 80s, early to mid 80s, when the oil money was flowing in Houston. And, you know, I'm just really kind of getting my stuff together. And, you know, I was there learning how to entertain. And that is such a big deal, you know, to be able, as a basically quasi-introverted person, you know, learning how to really be a great host. And that is what has carried me through. And you're right. We love doing big festivals. We love doing big venues. That's so nice, you know, to pay more bills and reach more people. But, man, that intimate environment is such a soul. And, you know, it's such a rewarding soul, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like feeds the soul to be that close to people. And the musicians, you know, my band, they always respond differently in that environment.
Is that right? You know what? Let's do that really quickly. Why don't you tell us the names of the members who are playing with you at Jazz Alley this weekend?
Yeah,
because they were man. And how did you put that group together? Is that a group you tour with all the time?
Yeah, we do. We get to play together a lot. I mean, every now and then there's a substitute. In fact, I'll mention the substitute first. Nathaniel Kearney Jr. plays with Dave Kaz, but he, you know, and Dave and I are very close. But you know, Nathaniel is one of the musicians who I know from doing the cruises and doing other, you know, venues where I know he's bad. So if my guy can't make it, you know, there's a small cadre of people who can fill in. And the guy normally plays with me is from Dallas. He and Roy Hargrove went to school together. He's a young phenom on the bass. That's Braylon Lacey. But anyway, my drummer I've known since he was 12. He played drums in my dad's church. My dad pastored in Memphis. I would come home from college. I'm hearing this 12-year-old. I'm like, okay, this kid is doing some 25-year-old stuff on them drums. And so I've had the privilege of having him in my band for about 12, 13 years now. And his name is Marcus Finney. And my special guest, as you know from my Humanité project, which is humanity in French, is about going to 8 countries and collaborating with young artists in these places, and Japan, Kenya, South Africa, France, etc. But she's from New Zealand, originally from South Africa, grew up in New Zealand. Her name is Andrea Lisa.
Yeah, she's bad too.
Yeah, she is phenomenal.
Yeah, and you played a cut from, I think, her.
Yeah, one of her projects.
Yeah.
Vortex was that one. Now she also, we're going to do tonight a song that she wrote and performed on my Humanité record. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And yeah, she's, I was like, oh wow, that's a pretty lady up on the stage. People like not quite there yet, because this being Women's Month. Come on. I mean, we just got to shake that old paradigm, and I'm hoping, to do my part. My 2 avatars right now on the saxophone are Tia Fuller and Melissa Aldana. 2 phenomenal saxophone players. So yeah, it's all about that. And then finally, my right hand, and the guy who I build a lot of what I do around him. And I also participate in his career. My musical director is John Stoddard.
Yeah, just excellent. Jazz Alley tonight, 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow night, and another show on Sunday night. And I'm telling you, don't want to miss. Let's talk a little bit about. I want to talk about you, but first I want to talk about the Humanité album.
Yes, thank you.
And you shared a little bit about how did you end up coming up with the concept?
Right, I was turning 60. And, I wasn't afraid of 60, but there was this moment when I did this math, man. I said, wait a minute, I'm turning 60. Seemed like yesterday I was turning 40. I mean, it just did not feel like that long ago. And I said, so by that math, in a week or so, I'm going to be turning 80, It's like, that's the kind of bizarre math I did. And I said, you know what, man? Look in the mirror and said, get on the plane. Get them freaking flyer miles, get your credit cards out, and do something that you thought, I'm going to get to this, and it's going to, when the time is right, blah, blah, blah. No, this is the time. And I love travel. I speak French. I speak Spanish. Lived in Europe for a while. Ruby and I had our kids, 4 kids, living in Paris, for 1.5 years. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was that kind of, I want to make sure and get this done. And so I got on the plane. I started doing, and I had already engaged with and encountered some of these young artists, whether at the Java Jazz Festival in Indonesia or in Nairobi or in, Lagos or in, France. I mean, I just go back through the, through the archives of what I'd done, what I had personally experienced, artists like Asha from Nigeria. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to ask. They could say no, but fortunately, the African American jazz musician from America is something that pretty much all those musicians in other countries respect. And so I was able to use that as capital, with Afghan, who has 6 million followers on social media in Southeast Asia. 6 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and so he's a heartthrob, huge artist in that part of the world, and growing, right? But I was able to go in and say, hey, Afghan, would you do a duet with me? And he's like, yeah. And so, of course, but that is not, I mean, I have enough to know that that's not the case. If I were to call up Usher's people or, Kendrick Lamar, it wouldn't be that simple, because the American audience is different and it's very much more commerce oriented. Whereas the currency I have as a jazz musician, and one of, certain profile, like I've done a lot of things, that doesn't really register as much. But it did in this setting. I was able to get these great duets. And man, I'm just so excited. And we made a movie of it. It's called Humanité, the Beloved Community, which, as you know, Tony, is something that Martin King talked about a lot. The beloved community. It's people who are marginalized in any culture and of all colors, including white, right, in every part of the world. So doing a movie, we were able to, the filmmaker, Jim Hayden, was able to tie this thing that I'm doing on an artistic level into the sort of humanitarian, aspect of being a world citizen. And what are the things, hello, Ukraine, what are the things that we can do as artists to stoke the right kind of activity?
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. This is Street Beat. My guest is Mr. Kirk Whalum. He'll be performing 2 shows tonight, 7:30 and 9:30 at Jazz Alley. 2 shows tomorrow night,
yes, sir.
7:30 and 9:30, and then again on Sunday night at 7:30. The show was just seriously, and you know me, I don't play. The show was amazing, and I like coming to those opening night shows.
Yeah, that's funny, right? I was joking earlier with you about how, we were all a little tight because we hadn't played together in a while. The pandemic and all that was sort of just cranking back up. I'd been out playing, but in different configurations. So with my band, we're like, okay, we gotta make this happen on opening night. So you're right. There's a certain vulnerability that factors in, and you do play differently when you're not so, you're not so sure-footed. You know what I mean? Jazz is a music that depends on that vulnerability, where you're kind of always treading on new waters. You're always in a position where you may fail. You may just fall on your face, and that energy from that vulnerability, you're right, it does translate into a different experience. Even though we feel like we're what you call sustaining injuries on stage, like I screwed that melody up bad, I think the audience does feel it,
Yeah, it was. I dug it completely. And let's talk a little bit about what made you, just because we know, what made you decide on the sax as the instrument of choice for you?
Yes.
We know the end result.
Yes, sir. Thank you for asking. So my uncle Peanuts, his name was Hugh Peanuts Whalum. The nickname came from him being 5'4". So he was always the shortest guy in the room. So he's called him Peanuts. And I heard him live. He was at the house. He lived in St. Louis. He passed away a couple of Christmases ago. But he was at the house when I was 12. And I just picked up the sax. And my dad made it a point, like, okay, Peanuts is going to be in town. My oldest brother, let me get him to come over here and play for Kirk. Or hear Kirk play. And so I was in that setting where you're a pastor's kid. Whatever you do, you're gonna do it at church. It's like as simple as that. And so when I first picked up the horn, it was given that I was gonna be playing something at church. Sure enough, the first week I got the horn, I played Amazing Grace at church. I have to think that it was terrible, but that affirming environment of a church, which again the Black church, that's something that I think is truly missing. Like a lot of therapists are making a lot of dough off of the fact that we don't have that nurturing family environment because, people kind of eschewed, I'm not really feeling the whole Christianity thing.
That's a great perspective. Just in my perspective, we rely on somebody who doesn't know us because their perceived professionalism than the family unit to resolve some of those issues. And I'm not saying anything bad about therapists or anything.
Not at all.
I just think that's a great
point.
Not
at all. I thank God for them. And there is plenty of dysfunction on the family side, right? Yeah. But the love covers a multitude of sin. Like that kind of that healing environment there's nothing like it, right? And again, it can be in a mosque, it can be in a synagogue, but the idea of a family revolving around the spiritual life and religious beliefs, that is something that is categorically missing from the current situation. But starting out on that horn, I was able to right away to get this affirmation way hyperbolic affirmation. Oh, you're so good. My goodness, you can play that thing. But man, I barely knew the one scale to play Amazing Grace. But it counteracted ultimately the negative feelings of like playing next to somebody who was really good, like my Uncle Peanuts. I heard him play, and all at once I wanted to quit, you know. And at the same time, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to play this instrument like him. I wanted to make the sound that he was making. So man, I got busy. I got to work, along with not making all city band, things like that make you realize that, dude, you may have a natural gift, but there is your part of it that you need to be very serious about. And that's being in a small room. And that's not just in music, whatever it is you're doing. You got to be in a small room. You got to be working it out.
You know, it is, speaking of the Humanité album, going back to that, it is wonderful to hear that one of the things that we are still exporting culturally is jazz.
Yes, sir.
And that the currency is still holding value over there.
Yes.
You know, that's really, and so I want to talk about that, working your way to the point where you say, okay, me and my sax, or maybe that was it.
Right.
We're going to make a go of this. We're going to try and make this happen in a crowded field.
Yes.
You know, in particular in jazz.
Yeah, in particular on the saxophone.
And on the sax, yeah. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so, you know, I think, again, there's a certain amount of narcissism that figures in, you know, when you are a young artist, young creative, and I see it all around me now, it's just so delightful. There's a part of it that you're like, yeah, I'm going to be great, you know? and so that part, there's an energy of that helps to keep you moving forward. But then it has to be coupled with the reality that you get when you see where the level is, you know, like, so Coltrane and Michael Brecker and Charles Lloyd, and they set the level. And so it's not like you can't bypass that. You have to acknowledge that this is it. You know, this is the standard. And in certain ways, I'll never reach that standard, right? You know, I know that my particular thing is one more rooted in the gospel preacher. It's more rooted in the gospel singer. So I'm all about trying to touch your heart and really reach in and connect with you in that way. But man, that technical virtuosic part, the quest for virtuosity is something that I will always, you know, I mean, I'm 63. I know that Sonny Rollins, you know, he had to stop playing at a certain point because of an illness, and he went into depression. And people say, well, man, what is it? Is it the audience that you know, your global audience? Is it all the great musicians you play? He's like, oh, that's great. He said, no, the thing that depressed me was the idea that I couldn't practice anymore. I couldn't grow. I couldn't pursue my craft anymore, you know, at 86 or whatever it was. And so I connect with that, man, in particular. And by the way, I say this now, I'm done. The idea that a creative, especially an instrumentalist, right, we're able to break and enter into a person's heart. Like there's no security system, quote unquote, that can stop what it is, the force of love and of creativity that comes through my instrument or any instrument. But then the question is that once I'm in there, am I there to take something, or am I going to deposit something of meaning, something of value, something of beauty, of spiritual significance? And again, as a Christian, of course, I'm always trying to share Christ, but it's in a context where I'm acknowledging the God in you. If you're a Buddhist, if you're whatever, and I'm saying, can I share mine with you? And it comes through a sound. You know, I believe that God speaks the language of music, that there's something that goes beyond your cognitive center, that God is able to communicate with us with sound.
Yeah, you did it. But if you go to the show, at least last night, I'm not going to tell them what it was, but you gave an entry to heaven test with the song. You had to go to the show, figure out what I'm talking about.
Are you going to heaven?
My guest again is Kirk Whalum. You know, one of the things that I would like you to share, you talked about your talented family.
Thank you.
Share with us a little bit about the members of your family who have some stuff going on as well.
Yeah, well, you know, the other day, man, I was listening. Somebody sent me a clip of Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
You know, on one of these tutorial sites, and he was saying, well, yeah, you know, Mrs. Whalum was my first teacher, piano teacher. And we all went, what? Mrs. Whalum. But again, you know, I knew that my grandmother was a piano teacher and voice. my father's mother. But man, I didn't realize that my aunt Bribina Whalum in Chicago taught Herbie Hancock.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then I know, my grandfather was a great singer. My other grandmother was a gospel singer. And so that was in the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Kevin, of course, is amazing. So we get that. And now look around. We did a gospel according to jazz workshop, man, when my son and my nephews were all around 13 or 14. And man, I look around and now, beginning when they were in their 20s, my son Kyle is playing with Kelly Clarkson. He's playing with Katy Perry. And in fact, she's doing a residency in Vegas right now. So my son is going between Katy Perry and Kelly Clarkson, right? Wow. Like I'm saying, dude, you couldn't get a good gig. Then my nephew Cortland is in Broadway. My nephew Kenneth is the solo artist. Kenneth Whalum is an awesome solo artist, saxophonist, vocalist, songwriter. And my nephew Cameron is touring with Bruno Mars. I mean, with Silk Sonic. So when you see the trombone,
did y'all hear that? The family tree that he's sharing what they're doing in the music industry.
It's crazy, man. I mean, it doesn't shock me, but it certainly does, make me go, man, this is something you're part of that's bigger than you. Yeah. And it's just it seems to be perpetuating itself again in another generation.
Yes, we're almost at time on this break, so I want to give you an opportunity to just look into the camera or whatever, and say whatever it is you want to say to folks. Man, it's been a pandemic.
Yes.
Haven't been able to play. We haven't been able to enjoy music. Like I'm telling you, man, I was done yesterday.
Yes,
that was amazing. But whatever you would like to share about whatever message that you want to share.
So first of all, let me say, Seattle, I love you. And I have always, from the very first time I played here in the early 80s with Bob James, I have loved, been a Royal Hall. And I love this place. Going down to the market. And just huge apples that are way too sweet to be fruit. There should be some kind of, you shouldn't be able to have that much fun eating a piece of fruit. I love Seattle. I love the salmon and it's just a beautiful culture here, and I'm a huge Frasier fan. So there you go. But just to say that, what I try to get across in my shows, if you can't make it, maybe you can't, is just to be open to God, to be open to this voice that is a musical voice, right? Detach it from all the dogma and all the nonsense that you hear when you hear the word evangelical, when you hear Christian. Try to ignore that and listen to a melody. There's a melody that God is playing specifically for you to touch your heart, to animate something inside you that's already real, an aspect of him, of her, of God who's already in you. Just be open to that and just don't, I understand culture like, I'm not interested. Be open to it. Listen for that melody.
My guest, Mr. Kirk Whalum, thank you so much for joining us here on Rainier Avenue Radio at the Columbia City Theater.
What an honor, Tony. And thank you, man. I'm so glad. And I need those glasses. We'll talk about that later.
Again, 2 shows tonight, 7:30 and 9:30 at Demetrius Jazz Alley. 2 shows tomorrow at Demetrius Jazz Alley, 7:30 and 9:30. Then another show on Sunday. And I'm telling you, the opportunity to see Kirk in this intimate environment, you get to see another side of him that you don't see on the big stage. Hopefully you saw a little bit of that during this interview. Coming up at 2:30, the Passion family will be here to talk about Walkaway City. This is 4 years of a combination of 28 different organizations who've been working to help guide youth in positive directions. And the culmination of this will be right here in the Columbia City Theater tomorrow from 3 to 6. There's going to be performances. But the Passion family who will uphold this thing, Walkaway City, will be here at 2:30 to do an interview with Bree Scott from Clean Greens Living. Then on Monday, in celebration of Women's History Month, Judith Hill will be joining us. Yes, Judith, who was supposed to tour with Michael and had Prince make an album for her. And then All month long. Just a lot going on. That's it. That's all the time that I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B, your host of Street Beat, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not driving my sweet AMC Pacer through the car wash, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. You missed a spot.
God is Rainier Avenue Radio .world, your favorite community radio station. We're putting out all kind of inputs for you in your community. So come on and listen to us and tune us in. Get on our Facebook, Instagram, and all, as we're doing it right here for you in your community with Rainier Avenue Radio .world. And God is an inspiration of gospel music. Also, we're doing a lot of different things in your community. We give out free food. We give out a lot of things in the community. We do a lot of shows. We do a lot of things on the sports part, and we want you to come on out and tune us in and come to the